you tell those same scholars at the museum or in any of their scientific magazines, say, so there was a god of agriculture and that's how you look. They say, no, that's a mythological scene. That's just mythology.
The word mythology is completely misused and misunderstood in today's society. The original word mythos comes from Greek once again, and it did not mean imaginary, fairy tale, or anything of that nature. It actually meant words, written words, stories and legends, historic events that were sworn to be accurate and true by priests and kings. So it was an affidavit of an accurate account in history. So it actually means completely the opposite to the value that we ascribe to it today. So from now on, every time you read the word mythology, you've got to ascribe the correct value to it and just replace it with the word history, not imaginary. And suddenly our entire human history changes dramatically. The most ancient written record in human history, as we know, the first civilization, the Sumerians, they wrote and wrote and wrote like they were besieged by the devil. They wrote down everything they could. And when you read the thousands and thousands of pages on Oxford University website, they treat every translation, and this is my take on it, go and do your own research. They treat all the translations of the Sumerian tablets as a work of fiction. I'm not kidding you. Just put that into perspective, people. The first people on earth that found the art of writing, the first thing they do is they sit down and they write millions of clay tablets full of crap. How is that possible?
That's just mythology. But whatever it is, there is an interesting celestial depiction on this one, and this is what it shows. It shows a star surrounded by planets. Now, this arrow is my addition to enable comparison with our knowledge of the solar system. So we have the sun, not the earth, we have the sun in the center, surrounded by planets, all the planets we know of, in the correct sizes and in the correct order, except that here there's one more planet, right here, between Mars and Jupiter, where the asteroid belt is now. So according to the Sumerians, there was a planet there, probably, or one must conclude, the planet which apparently broke up somehow.
seals. Now I just want you to see what a cylinder seal is. There are about 5,000 of these that we have. They're with their printing press. It was just a thing they would roll out on the clay to leave little pictures like this. Now when they had a story to tell, they told it in the tablets like you saw. The point is, notice the fine detail in the best of the cylinder seals, and then realize that these are basically 2 to 3 inches high. They're like big spools of thread. Made out of precious and semi-precious stone, carved in a circular format so that they roll out flat and three-dimensionally. Now, when asked how this was done, science says, well, they could only have bored little holes into the rock and then abraded them out like they, to the degree that they wanted. Well, the sand would be bigger than the holes you need to do this, some of this work anyway. There's just no way. Lasers, this is not even an inch square here. Lasers would have a hard time doing this if they could do it. Nobody knows how they did this. They're just pulling one out of the hat on you. Okay, next slide. This is the one I want you to see. This is a much older one, much more worn, as you can see. 4,500 years, 4,500 years, 2,500 BC. It's called it's VA 243. It's in a museum in Berlin. It's well dated. This is what makes this special right here. Let's see a blow up of that. What is this? Solar system, right. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, in their relative sizes, mind you. Earth, Moon, think how small that is. What grain of sand dug that out? Mars, and then, what should be here? This should be the asteroid belt. This is Nibiru, folks. Nibiru. Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto as a moon of Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Notice that it's only a little bit bigger than Uranus, Neptune. It's about 3 times bigger than Earth. Nibiru is a good-sized planet. Good-sized planet, according to this. Okay? Now, again, what proof do we have of any of this? Let's take some look. Let's take a look at this. All right. Here's a look at the solar system that you don't get to very often. And did it occur to any of you that we were looking at a cylinder seal carved at 4,500 years ago that had Uranus in it that we only discovered in 1781 when our telescopes got good enough to see it? It had Neptune when we discovered in 1846 when our telescopes got good enough to see it, and Pluto, which we discovered in 1930 when our mathematicians got good enough to tell our astronomers where to look for the thing because it was so small. What are the Sumerians doing knowing about that? Furthermore, what are they doing writing in one of their tablets that if you look at these two, Uranus and Neptune, in the heavens, meaning right out on them, they look like blue-green watery twins? When we didn't find that out, we thought they were just big old gas bags like Jupiter and Saturn until Voyager went out there in 86 and 89 and found that, lo and behold, they really are blue-green watery twins. What the Sumerians said 4,500 years ago. Furthermore, they didn't count the way we do. Earth was not the third rock from the sun for them. It was number 7. So that means they were counting from out here and they were putting Pluto in its correct place. What are they doing with all that knowledge?
I do say that there might well have been another planet where the asteroid belt is because of Bode's law, and it just seems to indicate, the physics of it seem to indicate that there should be a planet there, even if it's a small one like Mars, smaller than Earth, that blew up. And that could, I mean, the history, we are so far behind in understanding the reality of our solar system, of our planet, of life on our planet, that honestly, as you and I sit here talking right now, we are every bit as ignorant in relation to the truth as were the people 300-400 years ago who were absolutely convinced that the earth was flat and it was the center of everything that they could see in the sky.
there's no doubt that there's a growing awareness and concern amongst scientists about the dangers represented to the Earth by impacts with comets and asteroids. And I'm convinced from the research that I've done into this subject over a long period of time that there has been a hidden influence operating in our history which historians have failed to recognize. We really have a rather comfortable and arrogant view of our own past, and all we really know about our own past is based on less than 5,000 years of recorded history, when the ancient Egyptians and the Sumerians started writing things down less than 5,000 years ago. I think that Mars is a very important part of the reawakening of our species and of the possibility that we may recover our memory, and that we may find that we're going to learn things from Mars which are extremely disturbing and unsettling.
In what way?
And cause us to cast our eyes on our own past in a different way.
What do you think we'll find? What do you think in your...
What I've tried to do in the book is address this question at some length and to gather together all the best evidence that exists in one place on what we know about Mars now. And it is an extraordinarily mysterious planet. And what confronts us now is a corpse orbiting in space, a scarred, devastated corpse of a planet. The theory, in brief, is that a giant comet, somewhere in the region of 300 to 400 kilometers in diameter, falls into the inner solar system as a result, and I can explain how this process works. There's been great scientific work done on this by men like Victor Klube and Bill Napier. Falls into the inner solar system, fragments somewhere in the inner solar system, and I'm the first person in the Mars mystery to suggest that this fragmentation happened right in the face of Mars and was responsible for the destruction of Mars. And then the orbit of this comet was across the orbit of Mars and across the orbit of the Earth, and that the fragments, the remaining fragments, those that didn't hit Mars, continued on that Earth-crossing orbit and have periodically visited the Earth with cataclysms during the last 20,000 years. The best evidence suggests, and I find here the work of Sir Fred Hoyle and Chandra Wickram Singh at Cardiff University support this very strongly, that at 10,500 BC and 8,500 BC, approximately, the Earth was hit by two fragments of comets. These were responsible for ending the last ice age and for the cataclysm that I believe wiped out a great civilization on the Earth. And that there were later impacts around about 2,300 BC. There was a piece in the press about that today, which was responsible for the sudden demise of historical civilizations at that time, and that there have been subsequent impacts. But the most worrying thing is that in this stream of debris, which is called the Taurid meteor stream, some calculations suggest there may be an object 30 kilometers wide, which we haven't seen yet. A comet, when it isn't active, a fragment of a comet which is dark, is amongst the darkest things in the solar system. You can hardly see it. It reflects less than 4% of light that strikes it.